Hi there, I'm Sean from Motolegends. Today I'm going to be talking about Moto-Skiveez underwear and the various different kinds. So there's nothing sexy about these products. They're more tenor man than Victoria's Secret. But what they do is make you comfortable in uncomfortable situations, like these. So these are the Moto-Skiveez. Now, I actually use these myself. I have more than one pair. These are actually both mine, so don't worry, we're not going to send you a pair of these. What are Moto-Skiveez? Simply put, it's padded underwear, but it's more complicated than that. What I'm going to do is I will go over to the table and I will explain all the differences between the various different models, and you can have a little bit more thought about this underwear. So there are 4 kinds of Moto-Skiveez pants. What I'm going to do is go through each one individually, explaining the merits and how you can decide which one is best for you. So this is the adventure model. I'm going to start with these because I feel that most people will end up with this model, but obviously there are other models you can decide for yourself. I've got a couple of pairs of these. I decided to buy these, for initially one pair, because I bought a KTM 990 Adventure. Now, most people that own a KTM, you may or may not disagree with me, but people I've spoken to have said that the seats are particularly uncomfortable. I would definitely agree with them. The standard seat on mine left me very uncomfortable and wanting to stand up after not much more than half an hour. I did a 1,400 mile round trip with Motolegends to the Wheels and Waves Festival in Biarritz, and I was just very, very uncomfortable. I just saddle sore, I think is probably the right word to say. So I was sitting there scrolling through various different seat types and things like that. What seat can I buy to improve the comfort of my motorcycle? I looked at Airhawk things, I looked at sheepskins, and one of the problems I had is the bike was quite tall, so adding extra height to the seat wasn't going to benefit me in any way. It was going to make me more unbalanced, and ultimately I'd be switching one discomfort to another discomfort, which was potentially more dangerous because I could just slip and break my motorcycle. So luckily, just after that, we started selling Moto-Skiveez. Now I was quite, I was a skeptic, basically. I thought, what on earth is that small bit of foam going to do to help improve my comfort? And why can't I just buy a pair of cycle shorts? Because surely that'll be cheaper and will do the same thing. Well, that's not true. I've used these now several thousand miles. I've ridden around Africa in these, or parts of Africa. I've done a trip up to Scotland and back, which was on the KTM, and that's what made me decide to buy another pair, because they just changed my riding. I was going from getting uncomfortable at the 45-minute mark to comfortable up until about 3 hours, at which point I need to stop anyway. These ones in particular are called the adventure model, but they're kind of the standard model. It's any bike, when you're sat on the bike and your knee is near enough in line with your hip bone. So if you're sat on the saddle, your knee's no higher than your hip joint. And they've designed these pads using thermal imaging, a lab over in Italy. And what they did, they get people to sit down in certain positions and they measure the heat generated, which is basically pressure points, and then they design pads specifically to relieve that pressure point, and each one has got specific thickness to its padding and a different shape, and there are different ventilation marks, so ranging from 3 millimeters, 4mm and 6mm in thickness. The 6mm is on the cruiser pant. Now, most bikes, you don't have to be an adventure rider or on an adventure bike. If you have a Pan-European like me, for example, these are perfectly comfortable. It's just to do with the positioning of your backside on the saddle, and which is usually dictated by where your knees are in relation to your hips. So most people will want this pair. Majority of bikes will put you in one of those positions because it's quite comfortable. You've got venting panels here, so in all the areas where you've got a lot of heat, that will help get rid of any excess moisture and keep you comfortable. So on the front of the pant, boxer short, however you want to describe it. I know people get fussy about these things. There are mesh panels down the front, the side of your groin here. The front here is double skinned to stop any chafing. And it's just really nice, stretchy, soft material. All the seams are flat, so you don't get any uncomfortable pressure points on the backs of your legs or anything. The waistband is really nice and wide, so it's not pinching around your waist. And you know, generally they've just done everything they can to create a product that you can wear all day long comfortably. Now, they are $64.99 currently. It's a lot of money for a pair of pants, and you're probably thinking, why on earth would I spend that much money on a pair of pants? Well, it's a lot cheaper than buying a new seat, I found out. It's also half the price of, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention Airhawk, but something an equivalent to that. They're generally around the £120 mark. So in terms of cost, they're a very cost-effective solution to discomfort on a motorcycle. So sports bikes are notoriously uncomfortable, but usually people complain about their wrists because they're not riding them that long. But should you be doing longer days in the saddle in a sports bike, this pair here, the sports pair, has a pad designed specifically for sports bikes, and that's again to do with the positioning of your knee in relation to your hip. So if you are leant further forward, it rolls the pressure point further up, or sort of down there, and also sports bike seats, your legs tend not to hang down further, so you'll get more pressure at the side of your legs. So this pair is designed for sports bikes. It's pretty simple. If you've got a sports bike where you are sort of in a very forward position, weight on your wrists, and you feel like your back end's just going to come up into the air, then this is the pair for you. So anything with clip-ons or an extreme position, go for the sport pair. So this is the cruiser model. Cruiser model is for a position where your knee is higher than your hip. So if you're leant back, again, the weight shifts to a different part of your backside. This has got some larger, thicker pads, and almost going up to the coccyx. So if you're on a feet forward machine, cruiser doesn't necessarily mean the style of riding you do, whether you're riding, oh, I cruise around, it's just the position that you're sat on the bike. So again, 6mm thickness in these, which is thicker than any of the other pads, but don't buy it because you think it's thicker, it's going to be more comfortable, because the padding will end up in the wrong position if you're not on the right bike for it. If you only have the option of buying one, and you've got a number of different bikes, I'd still go with the adventure model. But if you only ride cruisers, or the only bike you find uncomfortable is your cruiser, then this would be the pair to go for. So this is the ladies model. Obviously they've designed this for ladies' anatomy, so the whole short itself, or the pant, has changed. It is designed for someone with hips and curves, and they've got an even softer waistband, which isn't as tight and elasticated as the ones on the men's. The perforations, or the venting, is in a different place on this, because ladies have got different anatomy to men. I think that's obvious. This is, again, the waistband is doubled up to stop any chafing and discomfort. Flat seams again, so mesh panels all the way down the front but not down the hips, and on the back all the way down the back. Now the slight disappointment with these, which I guess I am guessing at, is that they don't tell you what bike they're for. I don't know if they're assuming that ladies are pillions, or if they think that they'll be seated in a similar position on all bikes, but I don't know if that's too big of an assumption, or whether it's just that they could only afford to make one model for ladies and that they would expect them to use the men's. If they had a sports bike, they'd use the men's sports one. But it's nice that they tried to begin with. I hope in future they'd maybe do a ladies sports model, cruiser and adventure. But for the moment, this is what's on offer. Again, for the ladies' anatomy, so they've changed the shape of the pad here accordingly. So if Moto-Skiveez are watching, I think we'd probably like to see some bike-specific ones for the ladies. So we're going to finish off just going back to the adventure style. This is going to suit most people's needs. All of them are antimicrobial. They've got some sort of silver infusion in them, and what that does, it stops nasty bacteria living on them, making horrible smells. Another thing that I often do with these is I will wear a pair of breathable boxer shorts underneath just to keep them cleaner if you're doing a longer journey. So in terms of sizing, something that's quite important, I guess, especially if you're buying these on the internet, they're non-returnable for obvious reasons. I use a size medium. I'm a 32-inch waist. I've got reasonably big thighs, and I would say they're quite tight. If you've got bigger thighs to a smaller waist, you might end up going up a size. They go up in just a bit more than a 2-inch increment. So if you're a 35-inch waist, you might end up in a large, because the waistband's really nice and stretchy. But if you've got bigger thighs, you might think about going up a size and having it a little bit looser on the waist. So I think that's probably answered all of your questions. If there are things that we've missed, you can write in the comments, we'll answer those questions. If you want to know where to buy these, obviously it's motolegends.com, but there'll be a link somewhere here, and you can click on that and it will take you to the product. And like I said, any more questions, just put them in the comments. I've been Sean, and this is Motolegends. Thank you very much.